Okay, we're out here in these beautiful swamp areas. And Jay and I are walking this trail. We were just saying this is the only dry part that we're walking along these swamps. It's a little elevated above the surrounding swamp areas. So it's really beautiful, isn't it?
Oh, it's awesome. I mean, just look at this. This is just old Florida at its best. Cypress trees everywhere. There's remnants of the turpentine industry we're already seeing. So it's awesome. What a beautiful spot.
Well, let's take a walk further into the woods here. We're going to follow some of these trails, go off the beaten path a little bit. This is a very lush wilderness out here too.
Oh, it's amazing, man. We're already seeing things. I already saw, a pretty interesting frog. I can't wait to get home and figure out what it was.
Did you get a photo of it?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Was it a big one?
No, it was a small one. It looked like a native Florida tree frog, which are pretty rare these days. You usually see the Cuban ones, the invasive ones more, but this one looked like he was a native.
Okay. It's a little wet through here. Be careful.
Yep. It is a little soggy through here, huh?
So it's rainy today. It's actually lightened up a little bit as far as the rain. It's been raining for a good day, and all through the night we had a tropical storm that came through here, and we were contemplating on if we were going to come out or not, but I got to be out here no matter what. And Jay wanted to tag along, so
let's do it.
We're out here today, and the sun is actually shining. The rain has stopped for the time being, so
yeah, we got lucky, man. You called it. I remember talking with Joe this morning on the phone. He said it's going to stop. But where I was at in Orlando, it was just coming down. So I said, let's give it a try. Came out here and look at this. Perfect weather, man. Beautiful.
Yeah. It's actually nice, too, after a good rain to be in the woods.
It is.
Fresh
and cool.
Yeah, it cools it off. There's fresh air.
Oh, man.
And everything's wet. The wildlife comes out.
Yep, doesn't get any.
Exploring deeper into the woods here, and we're just covered in trees and lush wilderness. You're enjoying seeing all the old trees out here, you were telling me, and it just feels like an ancient place.
Oh, it does so much. It's I mean, the oak trees out here are old, the cypress trees are ancient. It's just a cool spot, and it seems like we stated before, that the trail is fairly dry through here with some wet spots off to the side. So
yeah. So far, it's not too overgrown and flooded. Sometimes it can be flooded and a little impassable, but we are making our way through and actually trying to hike towards some of the river areas. So we'll check back in with you folks. So over by you, they're building a lot of the expressways. I notice when I go hiking over there in some of the wilderness areas, they got this huge expressway cutting right through the woods there. What do you think about that?
Roads,
I couldn't believe it. I can't believe it.
Yeah, it's a lot of development, especially by the Wekiva area, Seminole State Forest. Huge, massive highway going in there. I'm struggling to figure out the reason why, but you know.
Well,
hey.
Progress spurs on development. They also say these toll roads are used for hurricane evacuations. We need more of them.
Yeah, routes.
So they keep building these expressways. And they actually built one over here on this side of Florida where we're at today. And same situation, this expressway that cuts through a wilderness area. And they actually built right over an old ghost town that's there, an old turpentine town. It was called Etna. Wow. And it was only about 200 people or so that lived there, so it wasn't a big town. But it's a part of the history of the area from the late 1800s or so. And there's some artifacts out there and historical stuff that was there. The site had been documented, and I went out there for several years just doing videos.
Right.
And documenting what I could. And I'm glad I did, because the area is gone now. It's been paved over with this expressway.
Unbelievable.
So that's one of the reasons I do these videos and get out here, explore these places, try to share about them. I'm glad folks like you appreciate them
Yeah.
and come out and try to
Save that history.
see them as well, and because you never know when to be gone forever. So it's sad. It's disappointing. It's frustrating.
I'll tell you.
How many highways do we need? How many developments do we need?
Well, when they're gonna, they say, 400,000 to 500,000. That's 500,000 people, new people moving to Florida every year. That's insanity.
It's becoming a concrete jungle. So these wilderness areas are very important to cherish and value. And they're also very vital to our ecosystem here. The Florida aquifer.
100%.
When you start building on the aquifer and messing with that, it causes a lot of damage to the ecosystem. So there's a lot to be considered with a lot of the development. You got sinkholes. They just had a story recently. 80 sinkholes or so opened up in this county that were nearby here.
Wow.
So imagine living in a neighborhood where like 70 or 80 sinkholes open up.
I'll tell you, something's got to give. In the future, there's going to be some hard questions to answer.
And one of the reasons that I learned from sinkholes, because we're basically on top of a big limestone aquifer. And there's a lot of water that goes through these holes in the ground, the limestone, right?
Sure.
So when you build and you develop, you pump a lot of that water out.
It has no place to drain.
And when you pump that water out from the aquifer and use it, those areas that were once filled with water, these cavities, are more likely and prone to cave in and form a sinkhole. So that's what happens. That's just part of the reasons they form, but they're natural to Florida. I mean, you see a lot of these sinkholes have been here for thousands of years, but you're seeing more and more of them develop.
It's crazy. Like I said, something's going to give sooner or later, So you really have to, it's really about smart planning, smart development, and really just paying attention to the needs of the environment first.
And it's also important for the wildlife.
Absolutely.
Bear habitat, panther habitat.
Absolutely.
All these places are important habitats for wildlife in Florida. When you take away their habitats, you lose the wildlife, and it's a beautiful part of Florida here.
Absolutely.
Well, look what Jay found here as we're exploring out here. He saw a piece of a hurdy cup fragment here on the ground. It's not much left of this, but you can see this was part of a hurdy cup.
That's a good size too. Most of the time when I find them, they're about 1/4 that size. So
I've seen the cups intact before. It's just rare. I've seen bigger pieces, but
right.
In these areas, you'll often see a lot of these scattered around because this was a area for turpentine operations back in the early 1900s. And it was a big industry out here. There was many turpentine camps. In fact, there was a turpentine camp not far from here where there's some more hurdy cups.
Oh yeah.
But it's always interesting to see them. Yeah, see?
Another piece right there.
You have to have a watchful eye, but you can see another one here on the ground.
Yep. Interesting to find.
Look, there's another one there.
Yep, finding out here laying in the open. You got another piece right here, and then another big piece right there. Yep.
So there's another hurdy cup fragment.
There you go. All over the place out here today.
Out here exploring in the woods, and we came across this abandoned road. It's really neat, and it's a fascinating part of the history out here. This was actually one of the main highways in this area one time, dating back to the 1920s or so, somewhere in that time period, I believe. What do you think?
This is cool, man. You can definitely tell it's been here a while. It's this older asphalt type pavement that they used to use, but it's still here. It's held up pretty well, but I mean, to think at one point this was a road that was well traveled, I mean, to look at it now, it'd be hard to believe.
Yeah, you'd never think that today. It's abandoned, surrounded by wilderness out here, but at one time this was a main highway in the area. So it's neat to travel along these old roads and truly taking a journey back into the past here.
Very much
right?
so. Very much so. It's a cool experience to kind of walk along the same path that 100 years ago was something that was you know, pretty busy, I guess.
Yeah,
You know,
it would be. Yeah, maybe around 100 years ago or so that people were out here traveling.
all the logging too, the turpentine industry, all that stuff. You know,
Yeah.
super.
So here we are at this old railroad line. Walking up to it right now.
Wow.
You can see where it's elevated here. What do you think, Jay?
This is cool right here.
Yeah, some of the interesting history out here, just one of the many layers of history. You had this railroad that came through during the early 1900s. And back in those days, it was used by the logging and turpentine industries.
Sure.
It was a means of transportation. It's always fascinating to walk along these areas. And today it's overgrown. The railroad grade is not visited very much, you can tell, but you can see some traces from the past out here. We're gonna keep exploring further along this area along the railroad grade where there's a creek there, or a small river, and there would have been a trestle that crossed over it. But you can see it's all overgrown. Let's take a walk over here and see what we can discover. Be very careful and watch your step. Okay, it's starting to open up a little bit over here. Check this out. Wow. So you can see right here where part of the railroad trestle used to be. So we're at this area where the trestle was. Pretty amazing, huh?
Man, this is, see the river, the old pilings here along the river. You can see the old, you know, remainings of the railroad ties and the spikes. It's just awesome. It's just
Absolutely.
so cool.
Yeah, imagine at one time trains coming through here and then crossing over this area where the river is. Getting some good photos out here as well.
Yeah, it's photographer's paradise. It always is, though, every time I come out with you. So, yeah.
Well, I'm glad to be able to share the experience with you. Check out some of these railroad ties here.
Interesting stuff, man.
Yeah,
some of these old
look at
rocks,
the,
too.
just nature's breaking them down, you know?
Yeah, even though these were treated, too, and still
Yeah.
stuff overtaking it and growing on it.
So we got to be very careful, but let's take a walk over here. Get some more views. So you can see right here where the bridge was.
Yep.
Just the foundation. And then
Cool.
there's the railroad line there. It's all overgrown now. You can see a couple of the pilings right here.
Amazing.
And then right there, bridge went across this direction.
Amazing.
And look at this over here. You can see a couple of the old spikes. There's one embedded.
Yeah, what's cool about these is that these are the old school square ones.
Yeah.
If you notice later on in the 19th and 20th century, they went to the round heads. These are square. These are super old.
Okay, look at this one. Right here.
Oh, wow. Look at that. So cool, man.
You can see part of the road there. Okay, we made it to this area where part of an old bridge is. What do you think of this, Jay?
This is awesome right here. Look at this.
Relic of history here.
Wow.
Vehicles traveled over this many years ago.
Nature reclaiming it.
Yep, this is part of the main highway at one time. It was a major route through the area. Now look at it.
That's a rock and stuff.
It's abandoned and lost to nature. But it's a part of old Florida here that still remains. We just got done exploring that old bridge there along this road. Pretty neat relic of history there, don't you think?
Yeah, it was an interesting place. It's a lot of stuff back here to explore and look at, and I'll tell you, every little spot is hiding something, so
Yeah,
really interesting.
Never know what you may encounter out here. It's beautiful wilderness, but it's amazing to imagine vehicles out here one time, traveling through here, crossing over that river on that bridge. And now it's falling apart. Not much of the bridge remains there. So it's neat to still come out here and see it.
Absolutely. I think it's important that, you know, get as many pictures, as many videos of this stuff as you can before it disappears.
Yeah,
you know?
who knows how much longer that bridge will be there. But
I mean, you know,
hopefully for years to come, people can come out here and experience this area, learn about the history. It's always great to come out here hiking with you and share your experience.
always a good time.
Yeah, I know you've never been to this part of the forest, and
No,
glad you got to see some of the trails and this beautiful wilderness.
it's a very interesting place. I plan on coming back for sure. I mean, it's nice and dry now, but I imagine in the wintertime it's even nicer.
Oh yeah, it's perfect. A lot of the swamps dry out in the wintertime. It's not as buggy. Right now it's been perfect though today, so
Right.
I've had a good time.
Yeah, it's been a good time, man. Got some cool photos, some cool video. It's super interesting.
Yeah.